All right, let's look at the inheritance battle amongst members of the Zulu Royal household. The KwaZulu-Natal High Court has dismissed an application by the lawyers of Queen Sibongilr Zulu for the matter to stand down. Judge Mjabuliseni Madondo says the applicant failed to provide adequate reasons. She had wanted him as judge to step down. The first queen of the late AmaZulu King Goodwill Zwelethini, Sibongilr Dlamini Zulu, asked the court to nullify the king's marriages to the other queens. She and her two daughters, Princesses Ntando Yenkosi Zulu and Ntombi Zosutu Zulu Duma, are challenging the validity of the late king's will. Meanwhile, the leader of the AmaZulu regiments, Muzi Nyanendeni, has vowed that they will never allow anyone other than King Misuzulu ka Zwelithini to ascend the throne. So this is a battle about inheritance amongst members of the family. The king's first wife, Queen Sibongilr Dlamini Zulu, wants to inherit 50% of the estate of the late King Goodwill Zwelethini, but there are other battles as well. To discuss, we're joined by the founder and the chair of the Umsamo Institute, Dr VVO Mkhize. Dr Mkhize, great to chat with you as always. What are the implications of this court application being struck off?
Thank you very much, and thank you very much to your listeners as well. I think, in a way, I would say it's really embarrassing because this is the so-called Undlunkulu, of which is the house that I would say is actually the lead of the whole nation, of which all of us we have to look at and look into, and also with respect and learn a lot of things from them. But if such things are happening in other ways, it's showing some kind of a destruction when it comes to our own traditions and also values. Now, there are two things that you must differentiate here. We must differentiate between the law itself, as we know it in South Africa, the South African law, and what I would call, in inverted commas, the so-called family law. In isiZulu, it's called umthetho womndeni. Now, when the king took all his wives, Ondlunkulu, and so on, I think he knew exactly what he was doing, and actually how he married them. I think it was actually decided by him together with the council, the Undlunkulu council that is there, advising him how to marry each and every one. Now, the one that asked for 50% because she was married under a civil marriage, whatever, we know exactly that when it comes to inheritance in our tradition and culture, is that all women will have to share if and only if they were married through the real traditional customary marriage. But sometimes it differs in terms of now, say, the lobola was paid. How many years did you spend with this person? As we know that even the South African family law today, it looks at the relationship in the civil marriage, it looks into the customary marriage, and also it looks into what we call the civil union. So all those dynamics, they have to be taken into consideration. So when it comes to inheritance, I think here, they will have to sit down without any greed, but by saying, what is it that is going to be good for ourselves, meaning themselves, and what is going to be good for the nation. Now, the only thing that worries me in the whole debate here is this one. You see, there are people who are already married who are the daughters of the king. Now, in our African tradition, the moment you are married and you are gone, you are no longer part of the family. You are gone and gone. So in other words, if you are married as one of the daughters married to the Duma family, she belongs to Duma. She has no right of discussing any issues in the family. That is the customary, that is our tradition and our custom. So therefore, it's only and only the family members who can actually get into the discussion and say, how do we go about, and also how do we do this, and how do we get to the settlement?
All right, so this is very complicated. If you look at her claim that she's the first wife, it was under civic law, she then deserves 50%. You're saying customary law, Zulu culture and traditions would take a different view because of when Lobola was paid. How legitimate is her claim against Zulu culture and traditions, what you're talking about? And then, of course, we'll have to see what the courts find.
Look, as I mentioned earlier on, if she wants 50%, as she says, okay, that's fine. But on what is that 50% based? And what was the agreement of the family itself? And meaning that of the whole umndeni, of the whole, brothers and sisters and so on. What was the agreement between her and the family and also with the king himself? Now, coming to the other wives, for me, it would be wrong if the other wives won't have a say in that particular 50% because Lobola was paid. The Lobola is the defining thing in any marriage, in our own African traditional marriage. That is why I am saying here that this is very interesting, and I'm going to see how is the court going actually to put this forward. Are they going to use the so-called South African family law, or are they going to use the so-called the family law in the Western sense, or are they going to say, no, just go back and discuss it yourselves according to your own family law, which is not a South African family law?
Yeah. What are the implications? Because this is an inheritance battle, but some believe it has implications for succession. So if she wins, what are the implications for the succession of King Misuzulu? And the princesses that you spoke about, they are saying that the king's will was forged. In fact, it's completely illegitimate. Does that throw a real spanner in the works in terms of succession?
Let me start with the latter of what you actually mentioned. For me, the two princesses must be out of the picture, according to our tradition. As I've already mentioned, they are married. If they are married, they cannot actually. The court must understand that they have no say in the royal family's issues. They are married. Now, coming back now on the real issue is that what actually must happen here is that. You see, I think I spoke about this in our earlier, what you call interview some months ago, that King Misuzulu, if he is coming from a mother whose lobola was paid by the nation, therefore he deserves it. You cannot actually nullify that one. Because in our African tradition, and also at Undlunkulu, the first wife or the second wife or the third wife, whatever, so long as the lobola is paid by the nation, it is the son of that particular woman who must actually become the king. They mustn't actually destroy the tradition and that culture, because once they destroy it, it will be destroyed for life. Now, coming to her asking for that 50%, also, if the court gives her that 50%, okay, the court must be very clear in terms of on what basis is giving her that 50%. Because if she says she was married under civil marriage without any traditional marriage, where actually she was actually brought in through the traditional customary way. Therefore, she can't stand on that, because in our tradition is that civil marriage doesn't hold water. What holds water with us is what is actually traditional and African, which we call ukugaga nomendo.
What if civil marriage holds water with the court? What then?
Look, the court can use the civil marriage, particularly because it says that they were married in community of property. Maybe that's where she can win, because in community of property means what is yours, it's mine. What is mine is actually yours. Maybe the court can actually look into that. That is why I'm saying this is going to be a very interesting case, that if that one holds water in terms of, okay, fine, here is income of property, but what do you say, therefore, in terms of now saying, okay, she was married in civil, but she was never actually brought in as in an African traditional way at Undlunkulu? That will be another story.
All right, and we know that our courts do respect customary marriages. So like you say, very interesting to follow the findings. Thank you for that explanation. The founder and chair of the Umsamo Institute, Dr VVO Mkhize.